It was a cool, chilly evening in October. It was a Friday, and that night involved Colin, Steve, Frank, Chad, and I meeting up at the university for the football game. We were looking forward to it because we hadn't been to a game all season. Though, I take back the part I mentioned about Chad coming with us, as he is actually part of the football team, claims to be the lead quarterback, so I was finally looking forward to seeing him play. I got in my car and drove on over to the university, where Steve, Colin, and Frank were already there, waiting for me.
Yo, man, tonight's gonna be lit.
Steve mentioned.
Chubby,
Replied Frank.
someone who happens to be my neighbor and happens to be a girl makes us happy to be coming to the game tonight. Yes, man, you really think we're gonna be getting played tonight?
Steve said.
You ain't never should tell, Steve, but you may not be getting a number.
Let's head into the game, guys, I said. We headed on over to the ticket booth at the entrance of the football field and purchased our tickets. We were arriving at pretty much the same exact time as everyone else, so it was quite packed with students wearing camouflage, as that was the theme for the night. We walked into the stands and found ourselves some seats in the bleachers. We sat right smack in the middle of where most of the people were, so I was pretty surprised when Colin suddenly exclaimed, "Something's got my ankle." "What do you mean?" I replied, obviously confused. Everyone in the surrounding seats turned to face us. I looked down and witnessed a chubby hand that was now wrapped around Colin's ankle. Luckily, Colin seemed to be able to break free easily, as the perpetrator didn't seem to be too strong. I crouched down and took a peek under the bleacher seats. It was no one other than Herbert Ernie himself. He was lying on the roof of a large storage shed located underneath the bleachers, hence how I was able to reach Colin's ankle. I could really only see his head due to how he was lying. He had a hairstyle that stuck straight up and was flat on top, kind of like a crew cut, but raised 7+ inches up. His triple chin and puffy cheeks were more prominent than ever before. He smiled a cheesy one once I confronted him, but believe me, I was not smiling. "Herbert, what are you doing under there?" I demanded.
Honey, excited for the game?
Herbert inquired. "Don't be asking me that shit, Herbert. You're not allowed to be here. You got expelled, remember?"
Memory is a little foggy, but as long as we're having a good time together, that's all that matters. Now, let me squiggle my way through these bleachers so I can get a better view of the cheerleaders.
Just then, Herbert began trying to wriggle his way up through the gap in the bleachers underneath of where you sit. "Herbert, no! Stop!" Colin shouted. Herbert wasn't successful in his bleacher infiltration attempt, though, as the shed roof that he was on top of was slanted backwards, causing him to begin sliding backwards. He spread his arms and legs out in a sort of starfish shape as he rotated in circles and slid. He then fell off the edge of the shed. "Seems like that situation fixed itself," Colin stated. "They usually do, but keep alert though. Herbert is sneaky and often has more than one debut," I replied. At that point, we were finally beginning to learn from all of our previous trips and hangouts that Herbert had ruined. We learned to never take any chances when it comes to him, as he always has numerous tricks up his sleeve. During this occasion, however, there wasn't really much else in terms of precaution we could take when it came to Herbert though, because we were pretty much trapped in the middle of the main section at a football game, meaning we couldn't really do anything or go anywhere. Besides, what's the worst that Herbert could do at a football game anyway? We decided not to worry about it. What we know though is that this carefree mindset would be a huge mistake. By now, the game is about to start. The music is playing and the football players are in the process of making their debut into the field via running a line like they usually do. I couldn't directly see which one was Chad, as they were obviously all in uniform and helmets. I had my suspicions though, that Chad was one of the few players lagging in the back and looked to be struggling, even though the run only consisted of a light and easy jog. The spokesman then made an announcement to the crowd from the podium. "Welcome everybody to the Wookdale versus Vanderbilt football game. We ask that you show respect for the opposing team and act in a civil and appropriate manner. If you're hungry, there are concessions available near the main gate. Enjoy the game." The crowd cheered and the game officially began.
Yay! Woo!
Frank shouted as he cupped his hands around his mouth.
Shut your bitches, man. No one's here, you fat ass,
mentioned Steve. "Be nice, Steve," I told him. "Just let Frank be."
"Well, we'll see about that. As long as he don't be acting like no dumbass, then we good."
Frank cackled tauntingly, almost as if he was up to something quite mischievous. Anyway, the game started off pretty good. Wookdale scored a few points and Vanderbilt scored none. I spent the next 5 minutes trying to locate Chad, but like I had previously mentioned, it was quite difficult to do so. I eventually located him though, and I saw one of the players sitting on the sideline benches lift up their helmet to take a sip of their Gatorade. His football jersey number was number 69. It was weird though, because Chad claimed he was the all-star quarterback and coach's fave and all, but I hadn't seen him get out on the field once yet. We were to see if that would change, as we were quite antsy to see Chad play, especially after all the gains he's claimed to have cultivated over the past few months. We continued observing the game until all of a sudden, something happened. "Oh, player down. That was one foul move if I do say so myself. Hopefully the fellow's okay," the spokesperson said from the podium. One of the quarterbacks for Wookdale had just gotten knocked down. Luckily, they were able to get back up and seemed to be okay, but they wouldn't be able to play for the rest of the game. It was a man-down situation. Just then, I saw the football coach take a sigh of relief, accompanied with a look of, "I don't want to do this," on his face. "Chad, hop on in, in there. We're down a man, the coach told him. Yippity bro. We could hear Chad exclaim with excitement as he jogged onto the field. This should be interesting, I thought to myself. I was intrigued to finally witness Chad be the ultimate quarterback he claimed to be. The players lined up parallel to each other for the next play, as usual. Go deep, Chad, go deep, teammate shouted. Chad jogged a little bit out and prepared to catch the ball. It was weird though, because Chad claimed to be playing as the quarterback, but in this situation he was acting more like the wide receiver. The teammate threw the ball at Chad, and luckily, Chad caught it. He didn't start running though like he should have. Rather, he just stood there, flexing his blocky bicep. He had a look of achievement on his face as he turned to face the crowd. That was a great play, Bruce, Chad remarked. His teammates weren't so pleased though. Chad, watch out! Chad then turned around, but it was too late. A person from the opposing team had already tackled. Oh! The crowd exclaimed. Meanwhile, Vanderbilt cheered. Vanderbilt got the ball and scored a fat, juicy touchdown. The Wokedale coach was now furious. Chad, you just lost us 5 points. Vanderbilt's now in the lead, he screamed as he fiercely chucked his clipboard on the ground. Chad was then booed off the field. Oh no, my bad, Bruce. But he had to flex my gains on the crowd. What makes the game more protestical? Just remain on the sideline. I need a word with you. After the game, the coach smoldered. Chad then got a worrisome look on his face. The game was in the second quarter now, and Vanderbilt was up by 7. Getting tense. Not that I really cared. I was simply there to have a good time with friends and to see Chad. Although, as of the current moment, Chad wasn't quite living up to the title of Coach's Fave. Up next, it was halftime. The dance team did their usual show, and up next, it was time for the band to perform. But not first without an announcement from the spokesperson. And now, everybody, please welcome to the field, the Wokedale University Marching Band. Immediately after that announcement, I began to hear scurrying coming from underneath the bleachers. It was faint because of all the people talking, but I could just barely hear it. It was then also promptly followed by faint but prominent. The band then made their debut onto the field. The crowd gasped as we all witnessed a chubby figure hurriedly scrambling their way out onto the field. I immediately recognized who it was. It was no one other than Herbert Ernie himself. He wore a full and complete marching band outfit, except unlike the black and white colors of the Wokedale band's uniform, his was bright neon orange. He had his clarinet around his neck and looked ready to play. Though you see, Herbert used to be in the band before he got expelled the previous month. The reason he got expelled is something I won't go into. We all watched as Herbert ran over to the band. We could hear the screechy sound of him blowing obnoxiously into his instrument. Colin and I wanted to stop him so as the show wouldn't be ruined, but at the same time, we didn't want to draw attention on ourselves like that and possibly be associated with Herbert. Herbert then began trailing behind the band as they made their way to the center of the field. No one bothered to stop him yet, as the band is required to remain still and unreactive during their showtime. Herbert then proceeded to pants one of the boys marching in the back. This caused the boy to break his non-reactiveness.
Hey, what the fuck?
The boy exclaimed. I then recognized who the boy that Herbert pants was. It was Mikey Junt, one of Herbert's former mates. Not like that.
I made a promise that this year we would have you a girlfriend. And as your wingman, I can't let that promise go unmet. This is step number 1. The ladies love to see some goodies,
Herbert explained as he gave Daxon a creepy wink. Daxon, however, wasn't so pleased. He rushed to pull up his pants before running away out of embarrassment. The entire crowd was shocked, and none other than Mr. Brim, the vice principal, along with Officer Jones, were already on their way to put an end to Herbert's nonsense. But Herbert had other plans. Herbert proceeded to run out to the direct center of the football field. He then made an announcement.
And since, ladies and gentlemen, Dex and I are both on the hunt for girlfriends, I hereby present to you my goodies,
he announced. It is weird how loud Herbert's voice sounded. He didn't have a mic. It almost seemed like he was coming from the stadium speakers. As of the moment, the whole crowd was shocked. Herbert then proceeded to do the unthinkable. He leaped up in the air and did a sort of split motion with his legs. This caused the orange marching band outfit to rip open and fall off. The crowd took one last gasp before falling completely silent. Even Officer Jones stopped in his tracks. For the next 10 seconds, the only sound we could hear was the distant cars on the highway to the south.
Any days?
Herbert inquired. He was now butt naked. That was it, the final straw. The entire crowd proceeded to go berserk, as we were all on a frantic scramble to leave the stands and get as far away from Herbert as physically possible. It was like a stampede getting out of there. Multiple police cars arrived on scene, and 5 minutes later, I could witness Herbert being taken away amidst the chaos. Steve, Frank, Colin, and I all simply decided to call it a night and head on home. I later heard through talk that Chad was being demoted to the JV football team. Something tells me, though, that he wasn't really as good as he claimed, and that this whole Coach's Fave thing was just a facade. That then concludes Friday Night Kernie.